What's up, everyone? I'm Travis, and you're watching Upgraded RC. Welcome back, everyone. We are up to number 8 in our continued upgrade video series. In today's video, we're going to be taking the stock SCX-10 III 90mm coilover shock and replacing it with Hot Racing's new piggyback mounted reservoir 100mm coilover shocks. So guys, I'm changing out my stock shocks for a couple different reasons. Number one, it's only a 90mm shock, so it's not quite long enough to really get my tire down deep into them ruts where I'd like, so I get better traction. Number two, and probably the main reason why I started looking at other shocks, and you guys are probably familiar with this, but this cap leaks ridiculous amounts of oil, and I think it leaks out the bottom as well. So I went to my hobby shop trying to find aluminum caps that maybe wouldn't leak as much, and he told me for just about the same price, maybe just a little bit more, I could go ahead and get these Hot Racing all aluminum shocks, which don't leak at all. Now, some of the advantages that this has over the stock shock, number one, it's got that 10mm longer length. I went with the 100mm instead of the 90mm so I could get it just a little bit further down there like I was saying. Number two, this shaft right here measures out at 3mm. Okay, this shaft measures out at 3.5, so it's a little bit thicker. It's going to be a little bit more stable for those rough rides, and it's not going to bend near as easily. Now, next, we've got an adjustable rebound dampening here. So that's awesome. You don't have that on this one. An adjustable rebound basically is how fast your shaft will return back to full travel position based on where you screw this into, if you want it really fast or really slow. You also have the adjustable compression dampening, which is on your adjuster nut here so that you can make your springs a little bit tighter to make it a little bit stiffer, give you some more compression, or you can change out your springs with different options. Now, this particular shock comes with a dual spring rate setup, which means it's got 2 springs in it. It's got this smaller one right here that rides on the top so that when you encounter some of these smaller bumps that you don't really feel too much, this will soak it up like nothing. And then for some of the bigger bumps, or if you fall off a rock or something, this has got a little bit stiffer compression, a little bit longer travel. This is going to take up the rest of that when you're needing a little bit stiffer ride. So let's go ahead and see what's in the pack here. I opened this one up so that I could fill it and figure out how everything works so that when I'm explaining it to you guys, I know what I'm talking about. Here is the package for the new set that I haven't opened yet. Let's go ahead and look at that and see what's in there. So here's our package, and for those of you who are interested, the part number for this is TD100RV02. These are the piggyback adjustable rebound shocks, 100mm, made by Hot Racing. All right, let's see what's inside here. So what you got in the bag here is your 2 pre-assembled shock bodies, which comes with optional different spring rates here. You've got the white or the black. Now, when you guys were looking at mine, you might have noticed that they were gray. It's because I went ahead and painted them. And then I went ahead and put a dot of the paint up here so I could tell which spring rate it actually was. So these are the white ones, which are right here. The other ones that come with it, and they're already mounted onto the black. So just so you know, the black is not as stiff as the white. I don't know what the spring rates are on them. That doesn't say anything, but that's pretty much the difference there, is that these are not near as stiff as these are. You've got some mounting hardware here, and that's pretty much it. We didn't even get a sticker in this bag, guys. I'm kind of disappointed about that. Okay, so these come pre-built in the package from Hot Racing. Now, they've done everything for you as far as putting it together goes, except for one thing. They didn't put any shock oil in it. Now, they did that for a very good reason, guys. They don't know where you live. They don't know if you're in hot or cold weather. They don't know what you're trying to do with it. So the shock oil is really up to you based on where you live and what you're trying to do. So I looked everywhere on the internet. There are no directions for how to do this, how to bleed it, how to fill it with oil, how to adjust anything. I contacted Hot Racing. You can only do that via email. They have not gotten back with me yet. There's no diagrams, no schematics. There's no video out there on YouTube for this. So I've talked to a bunch of people. I've checked around, and I've checked with my hobby shop and some other people that I trust. And they've all basically shown me exactly how to do this in 4 or 5 different ways. We're going to do it my way today, the way that I feel is best. That's why I took the other package apart, and I've basically rebuilt them shocks about 3 times so that I could figure out how to do it the best way and get the result that I was looking for. That's what I'm going to show you guys today, is how I do this. Now, if Hot Racing does ever get back with me and they tell me that this is wrong, I did it wrong, I'm sorry. But I came out with the same result I was looking for, the way that I did it, and I'm 100% sure it's correct. So I'm going to show you guys today exactly how I fill it, bleed it, and adjust it for what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and get going on that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do here is go ahead and compress the spring just enough to go ahead and remove the spring retainer here. Now this just pops out of the groove that it's in and pulls off just like that. Then we can go ahead and take our 2 springs off. We've got the longer one on the bottom, the shorter one on the top. Now these are separated through a plastic spacer here that retains both of them. And like I said, you can change these out however you want to. You could have a hard spring on the bottom, you could have a soft spring on the top, you could just whatever you want to, the world there, whatever you guys need to do. Now, when we've got our body here, our housing body, what we're going to go ahead and do first is we're going to unscrew this Rebound adjuster bolt all the way out. We want to take this 100% out all the way. All right, got that out. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and right here, it's a 9/16 wrench. We're going to go ahead and remove this shaft from the body housing. It shouldn't be on there very tight at all, usually just finger tight. You can go ahead and now remove your shaft, which has your piston on the bottom, and it's got a couple seals in here we're going to go through in a minute. Now that you've got all that off, the next thing you're going to want to do is go ahead, and this should just be finger tight too, go ahead and screw this from your cap, like so. Now the reason why I had you do that is because I'm going to go ahead and take some of this green slime here, and I'm going to put this on this O-ring all the way around this cap here before I screw this back in. That way I'm sure it's not going to leak here at all. And then we're also going to put some green slime here on this seal as well when we put it back together. And we're also going to take and put some green slime on this bleeder screw as well on that O-ring in there. And that will take care of all of that. So I'm sure you guys have that question in your head right now. You're wondering, which shock oil should I use? Which one is best for me? Well, this is based on 2 things. Number 1 is your temperature, and number 2 is your weight. So say you're someplace that's really hot outside, maybe let's just go with 100 degrees, and you're running a rig that's moderately weighed down. You can run 60 or 70 or 80, or maybe it's weighed down so much you need to run 90 or 100 weight. That's based on what you're trying to do and the temperature you're in and the weight that you have. Now, if you're someplace a lot colder, you're going to have to run a thinner weight oil. Reason being is the thicker weight oil will not flow through the piston holes near as well in cold weather as a lighter weight oil will. So this is kind of a Rubik's Cube, guys. It's a puzzle for those of you that don't know what a Rubik's Cube is. There's 4 things that go into making up your suspension travel. Number 1 is the oil that we talked about, the weight of it. Number 2 is the pistons inside the housing. Now, some of these pistons have 1 hole, 2 hole, or 3 holes to get them to flow oil differently. Some of the manufacturers will only have 2 holes in their piston, but the thing is, they have really small holes for the first piston, the second size piston is a little bit bigger, and the third size piston would be a lot larger hole to flow more oil. Now, with all that being said, the other things that go into your suspension components are your springs. You have different spring rates depending on what you're trying to do. If you want a really stiff spring rate to give you more compression to hold up the weight of all your accessories or something. Or maybe you want a really light spring rate in the front so that you're using up all your travel really fast because there's not that much compression on the springs and it compresses easier. And you can mix it up. You can put different rate springs in the back and in the front, and different oil in the front and the back, and different pistons. And all that being said, guys, there's one more thing. Just like on a motocross bike, these particular shocks here have a rebound dampening adjustment, which is awesome. Now what that does is that controls how fast, basically the speed that your shaft is going to return to full length or full travel. So that being said, it's kind of up to you guys. Like I said, it's a Rubik's Cube, it's a puzzle. However you put it together is up to you, depending on where you're at for your temperature, what you're trying to do, and how much your vehicle weighs. So the shock oil I chose to go with today is 30 weight, because right here outside now we're between 25 and 50 is our hot spot for the day. So I think 30s would probably work pretty well with me. My vehicle's not real heavy yet. I'm going to take care of the rest of that through my springs. So let's go ahead and fill it up about a little bit more than halfway first so that we can cycle it a couple times, then open it back up and fill it again. So go ahead and put your shock oil in the tall side of the housing here to about halfway or so, maybe just a little bit more than that. Okay, now I can go ahead and I'm going to stick my shaft in here, and we're going to cycle this a couple times to fill up all the nooks and crannies and everything. So go ahead and screw that back down with your fingers, and then you can take your wrench here and just get it snug, not very tight at all. We're taking it right back out. And then go ahead and just cycle this several times so that we can get the oil to fill up all the cavities, and it can fill up this little transfer place here between this reservoir and this housing. After you've cycled it a couple times like this, we're going to go ahead and take the shaft back out. Like so. And now I'm going to go ahead and top this off. Not all the way full, but you want to get up past the bottom couple threads so that when you put this back in, you're actually seeing some oil come out over the sides. We want to make sure it's full. So go ahead and do that. And after you've done that, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and set this down. I've got one of these holders here. You could use a socket or whatever you got. Go ahead and set this in here and let that oil breathe. Let the air that's trapped inside go ahead and rise to the top and evaporate, so there's no air bubbles trapped in our oil. I'll probably let that sit there for about 5 minutes or so till I can physically look down on the inside and see if there's any bubbles or if it's clear. Okay, so after about 5 minutes or so, I was able to look down inside this with a flashlight and see that there were physically no more air bubbles whatsoever. So we are ready to go on that. But before we do that, there's one more place we wanted to put some green slime I was telling you about. It's on the seal right here. So what you're going to do is you've got a circlip here, you've got your piston, and then there's this black piece here. Now this black piece here is what rides here and protects your O-ring. So go ahead and take that black piece off the top here and slide it out of the way. And then we're going to go ahead and put some of our green slime on this O-ring right here. Just go ahead and put that all the way around just like you did everything else. This green slime is not going to hurt nothing. It doesn't do anything to your oil. It just keeps all your seals lubricated so that they're not going to leak as easily. Hopefully not at all. Okay, so once you get that back on there, go ahead and push this down like so, and you're going to see all that grease squeeze out. Now this grease right here, you can just go ahead and put this on the threads here. It's great for your threads. That way it'll be easier to get your shaft in and out, and it'll keep all your threads lubricated. So once you've got that done, now we can go ahead and stick this inside of the housing. Let's go ahead and put this to about right here so that our shaft's not all the way inside the housing, spilling out all the oil at one time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just stick this in here real slowly like so. And like I said, it's going to make a mess. We want to make sure it's full. Now you can go ahead and just screw this down finger tight with your hands. Then go ahead and grab your 9/32 wrench here and tighten it up with this. Now this does not get tight. If you keep tightening it, it just stops. It goes to a point and stops, so there's no reason to kill this. It physically just stops. That's it. That's as far as you want to go. Hand tight. Don't go any harder than that, and don't strip it out. Make sure it's in there correctly. Now you can go ahead and wipe all this mess here off. So once you get your shaft back on there and it's nice and tight and everything's been cleaned off, go ahead and cycle it several times, and you're looking to see if there's any oil leaks here or coming out the top or maybe coming out your bleeder screw here. If there's no oil leaks, that's great. You're doing good. Now when I push this in, watch this. It's going to rebound back on its own. Now this has 0 rebound dampening adjustment on it right now. Why? Because we haven't put our dampening bolt in there yet. So when you push it in right now, it should have enough to push out on its own, just like that with 0 dampening. Okay, so our next step, after you went ahead and cycled it back and forth a couple times and checked for your leaks and wiped it all down clean, next what we're going to do is I let this sit for a couple minutes with the shaft all the way extended so that all of our air bubbles would rise to the top and come up here to the top of this cap. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this bleeder screw completely out, like so. Now I'm just going to push down just a little bit until I see oil coming out in a full flow, then I'm going to put this back in. You're just trying to get rid of the air. We really want all of our oil to stay inside. That's why we put so much in the bottom. When we put our shaft in, it overflowed and made a mess. We wanted it to be full. So that's how you're going to bleed it. And if you think you still have more air in there, you can repeat that process again. But here, let's do this side one more time just to show you. So I'll go ahead and pull this out all the way. And see, oil's already coming out on its own right there. So this one's really full. I'm just going to push down a hair, and then once I see flow, go ahead and screw your bleeder screw back in. Snug, not tight, but snug. Once you get that done and go ahead and wipe it off, check for your action. Make sure you still see, now we have a lot less rebound coming out than we had before. You notice that? That's because there's no air cushion in there pushing back down on it hard. So that's what we're looking for. I want pretty much 0 rebound right now because I haven't even put my rebound adjusting screw in yet. All right, so now that we've got all of our air bled out through our bleeder screw and our excess oil is gone, we've wiped it all down and you've cycled it again to make sure it still works and comes back out, we're in good shape. Now we can go to our next step, which is the rebound adjuster bolt. So you can go ahead and screw this in here the same way that we took it out. And be careful not to cross thread it, it's kind of a little bit weird on the thread pitch there. What you're going to do is screw this down until you can physically feel that you've made contact with the plunger inside. Once you've made contact with it, now you can see that we've got a little bit more rebound here. If I turn this up a little bit more here, we're going to have a little bit more rebound. It's going to come out even faster. Now if I go all the way in with this as far as it'll go, what this is going to do is it's not going to allow me to push this all the way in. It's going to stop short because we have taken this bolt in as far as it'll go and pushed in on the spring and the plunger. So now everything is so tight inside there with the oil that we have. We've got a little bit here. Now if you're going to run it here all the way, you could take your bleeder screw back out and make sure this shaft pushes all the way in so that you've got your full travel if that's what you want to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen up this rebound adjuster nut so that when I push my shaft in, it goes almost all the way, but not quite. I want just a little bit of a gap here. We're getting closer. I want just a little bit more maybe. About right here. I want that much of a gap on mine. The reason why is so that when I put this spring retainer on here like this, oops, wrong way. When I put the spring retainer clip on here like this the correct way, which is like this, and I fit it down in its groove. Now when I compress this all the way, I don't want this to bottom out against my shock. See how I still got just a little bit of play right there? I'm going to take up just a little bit more of that actually. Let it out a little bit more. So I've got just a little bit of play right there, so that's not hitting. We have no bump stop in here, guys, so we don't want to compress it all the way, but I do want to get as much travel as I can possibly get. So that's kind of how you're adjusting that. You're adjusting this rebound adjuster here so that you've got a little gap about like what you see right here. You don't want it all the way fully compressed. So go ahead and do that and set it up how you like it or how you think it should be for what you're doing. And keep in mind, this is so simple to adjust. You can adjust this in the field with ease, guys. No problem at all. I really like the way they made this design. Now we can go ahead and take our spring combination, however you decided to put it, and we'll run both our springs with our spacer back up here. This is going to fit right here up against this. You're going to compress that just enough to be able to go ahead and put your spring retainer on there, which goes in there, drops down in the groove, and then make sure your spring fits right over this. There's a certain way that it goes so that it's right. And that's it. All right, so that's what it looks like all mounted up here. I think it feels pretty good. It's really plush. You can feel the suspension working great. Here's what it looks like, guys. You can see underneath. Now, the only thing left to do to this would be your preload and your sag as far as how much of this you have sticking up and how much it sags. All that is done with the adjustment nut that compresses your spring right there. So if you adjust that nut down, it's going to give you more compression and it's going to pick you up higher. If you adjust the nut up, it's going to let it sag more and come closer to the ground. Now that's up to you depending on what you want to do. I do have a video, I believe it's video number 4, prior to this that you guys could go watch if you wanted to. I explain the preload and the sag really good as well as adjustment, but it is pretty much up to you guys. It depends on how much weight you got in the bed and what you're trying to do with this. But you should have it a pretty even stance with a little bit of sag, and you don't want it too high so that you flip over when you're on, you know, steep hills or you're side hilling or something. But you don't want it compressed all the way either to where you don't have any travel. You want a little bit. So somewhere in the center there, wherever you like it, just go ahead and adjust it to where you want it. All right, that's pretty much going to wrap up this video on our hot racing 100mm piggyback reservoir mounted rebound adjustable dual spring rate shock setups. Wow, that was a lot to say. Hopefully this helps you guys out in your crawling adventures, your trail adventures. I can't see how it wouldn't. You've got that extra 10 millimeters of travel down to help you get over some stuff. Depending on how you have your preload set up, it's going to give you a little bit extra height, that 10 millimeters or that 3/8 if you've got it wound all the way up. Anyway, I can't see this not helping us, and it looks great. And I love the dual spring rate setup. That way I can change it out however I want to. This is not my first time or my last time adjusting these shocks. It's going to be a million times. Depending on the weather, depending on the weight, and depending on the course, it's all up to you guys to pick what you need so you have great suspension travel. Well, guys, I really appreciate you watching this video. Just like always, thank you very much. If you guys have any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to ask. Just leave a comment down below. I will get back with you as soon as I can. It may not be right away, but I promise I'll get back with you, and I will tell you to the best of my ability what's going on and answer your question. If I can't, I'll send you someplace where they can answer it for you. Well, that's it, guys. You guys go have fun, Go play, go bash, go crawl, go do whatever it is that makes you happy. Please send me comments. Let me know what you thought about this, if I covered all the content or not. Send me pictures, send me video what you guys are doing. I want to see it. Until next time, guys, video number 9 comes, which is just right around the corner. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Travis. You're watching Upgraded RC. Peace out.